Tonight, federal agents have arrested a trusted government official in a massive $80 million drug network.
2:47 a.m., Port of San Diego, California. The Pacific wind tasted like rust and seawater. Fog rolled between shipping containers stacked 30 feet high, turning dock lights into dim halos. Security cameras swept across empty asphalt where 18-wheelers sat parked in perfect rows. Inside Terminal 9, federal agent Marcus Hayes stood beside a 40-foot container marked MSU 4776321. The manifest read, agricultural equipment, tractor parts from Guangdong Province, China, destined for distribution centers in Arizona and Nevada. Standard shipment. He pulled the steel door open. The blast wave hit like a freight train made of fire. Orange flames erupted skyward. Metal shrapnel screamed through fog. Hayes flew backward 15 feet before slamming into concrete. Two ICE officers dropped, arms covering their heads. Sirens tore through the darkness. Hayes survived with second-degree burns and a shattered collarbone. His partner, ICE agent Rachel Kim, crawled through smoke with a punctured lung before paramedics dragged her to safety. Hazmat units in silver suits descended on Terminal 9 while black smoke choked the harbor. What federal investigators pulled from that wreckage would trigger the most devastating cartel takedown operation California had witnessed in 20 years. If you want to see how deep this corruption goes, hit like right now. By 3:15 a.m., the DEA Tactical Response Team sealed the port. By 4:00 a.m., FBI cyber forensics specialists were downloading surveillance footage from 73 cameras. By 5:30 a.m., Department of Homeland Security grounded every truck scheduled to leave San Diego County. The first evidence bags reached the DEA laboratory in Quantico, Virginia, before sunrise. Chemists in white coats worked under fluorescent lights that never shut off. Gas chromatographs hummed. Digital readouts scrolled across monitors. Acetic anhydride, phenylacetic acid, both in industrial quantity, not narcotics. Precursor chemical, the building blocks of heroin, fentanyl, and methamphetamine. Enough raw material to manufacture 6,200 pounds of finished product. Enough poison to flood the Southwest for 8 months. One lab technician noted in her report, explosion was chemical reaction triggered during inspection. This container was a weapon waiting to detonate. Someone had shipped compounds so volatile they turned a steel box into a bomb, and someone knew exactly when that inspection would happen. By noon, the operation had a designation, Operation Harbor Blast. Within 18 hours, 190 federal agents were mobilized. DEA, FBI, ICE, Homeland Security Investigation, ATF, Customs and Border Protection. The Southern California Interagency Task Force pulled resources from Los Angeles, San Diego, Riverside, and Imperial County. Satellite imaging units began tracking container movements from Asia. Financial analysts mapped shell corporations. Cyber specialists tore apart encrypted communications. The results were catastrophic. 91 shipments over 14 months matched the chemical signature. All entered through San Diego, Long Beach, or Los Angeles. All used legitimate import brokers. All cleared customs without flags. Someone inside the system was engineering this pipeline, and they had access to federal inspection schedules. Comment betrayal if you're ready to see who sold us out. For 6 weeks, the investigation went nowhere. Agents followed trucking manifests across California, Arizona, and New Mexico. Every lead dissolved into paperwork. Shipping companies checked clean. Import brokers had spotless records. Financial transactions moved through banks in Singapore, Dubai, and the British Virgin Islands. The money disappeared like ghosts. In Riverside, surveillance teams monitored a warehouse for 19 days. When tactical units finally breached the doors, the building was empty. Just tire marks on concrete and the faint chemical smell of acetone. Phoenix, nothing. Tucson, nothing. Albuquerque, same result. Someone was always 3 steps ahead. Every time agents moved, the network shifted. Containers rerouted mid-ocean. Warehouses abandoned overnight. Phones went dark 30 minutes before raid. Internal Affairs began investigating every federal employee with access to port security system. Financial audits, polygraph tests, communications monitor. Nothing emerged. The leak remained invisible. By month 2, the task force had executed 31 search warrants, seized 94 electronic devices, and interrogated 27 suspects. None broke. Most had no idea they were a cartel. Drivers believed they hauled machine parts. Warehouse workers thought they stored industrial solvent. Perfect compartmentalization. Each person knew only their job. One suspect, a 34-year-old logistics manager from Chula Vista, told interrogators, "I moved pallets. That's it. The pay was triple minimum wage. I didn't ask questions." The operation functioned like a Fortune 500 company. Legal on paper, poisonous underneath. Then, in March, near Calexico on the California-Mexico border, everything shattered open. A semi-truck registered to Desert Freight Solutions was stopped at the agricultural checkpoint. The driver, 38-year-old Carlos Mendez, carried documentation for irrigation equipment, invoices, bills of lading, everything legitimate, but a K-9 unit alerted on the trailer. Border agents pulled back tarps covering wooden crates marked pump components. Inside foam packaging labeled fragile industrial parts, they found vacuum-sealed bricks. 37.4 pounds of crystal methamphetamine, pure, lab grade, street value, $10,000. Mendez claimed ignorance. "I just drive. I don't load cargo." His phone told a different story. DEA forensic analysts cracked the encryption in 48 hours. Messages revealed coded instructions, GPS coordinates, drop schedules, and something agents hadn't seen before: communications switching between Spanish, English, and operational slang tied to military logistics. Most messages were routine: shipment confirmed, delivery on schedule, payment processed. But one phrase repeated across 6 months, in 29 separate conversations. "Clear the harbor at dawn." It wasn't cartel slang. It was military terminology. Harbor clearance protocols used by naval operations and port security coordination. Someone with federal training was running this network. Type exposed if you want to see who betrayed the badge. That discovery changed everything. For the first time, federal investigators realized they weren't chasing a traditional cartel operation. They were hunting a command structure. Linguistic analysts at FBI headquarters dissected the communications. The phrases weren't random cartel code. They were logistical directive, operational security language, command chain terminology used by military intelligence and federal law enforcement. Financial investigators traced payment flows backward through 15 jurisdictions. The money didn't move like cartel cash. It moved like defense contractor payments, wire transfers routed through government-adjacent shell corporations, accounts tied to logistics firms that serviced military supply chains. This wasn't drug trafficking. This was institutional infiltration. By month 4, the task force identified 104 shipments connected to the same network. Precursor chemicals moved from Guangdong and Shanghai to Tijuana and Mexicali. Labs operated by the Sinaloa cartel processed them into methamphetamine, fentanyl, and heroin. Finished product crossed the border in trucks labeled as agricultural equipment, construction materials, or automotive parts. The drugs entered through San Diego, Calexico, and Nogales. Once inside the United States, distribution cells in California, Arizona, Nevada, Texas, and New Mexico moved product to street-level dealers. The architect remained invisible until a cyber forensics specialist in Los Angeles found a name buried in archived customs access log. Deputy Chief Martin Caldwell, 51 years old, 26-year career with Customs and Border Protection, decorated officer, spotless record, Deputy Chief of Port Security Operations for the San Diego sector. He had authorization to access inspection schedule, container manifests, and federal surveillance protocols across Southern California. His digital signature appeared on 73 logins to restricted systems. Each login occurred 12 to 48 hours before a container tied to the cartel network arrived at Terminal 9. He wasn't just leaking information, he was coordinating the entire operation. The discovery was a knife in the back of every honest agent who had bled for this investigation. Caldwell had security clearance that allowed him to view classified DEA operations, FBI surveillance targets, and ICE raid schedules. He knew which shipments would be inspected and which routes were being monitored. For 3 years, he turned the United States border into a cartel highway. Financial analysts tore apart his life. Bank records showed deposits totaling $2.3 million routed through offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands and Panama, real estate purchases under his wife's maiden name, luxury vehicles registered to shell companies he controlled. He owned a lakefront property in Montana he visited twice a year, a beachfront condo in Cabo San Lucas he rented through Airbnb, investment portfolios worth $1.8 million. On a federal salary of $127,000 a year, Caldwell had turned his badge into a business, and the product he sold was access. One FBI supervisor reviewing the evidence said, "This isn't corruption, this is command-level treason." By April, federal prosecutors had enough evidence to authorize arrest, but they didn't move immediately. They waited, they watched, they let Caldwell believe he was safe. Because investigators wanted more than one dirty officer. They wanted the entire network, and Caldwell was about to lead them straight to it. If you're still watching, comment justice so more people see this story. On April 19th at 4 a.m., the operation launched. Inside a federal command center in downtown San Diego, 140 agents watched a digital map covering 3 states. Red markers pulsed across California, Arizona, and Nevada. Each marker represented a cartel safehouse, stash location, distribution hub, or corrupt official tied to Caldwell's network. The mission was called Operation Desert Reckoning. The assets were staggering: over 100 federal agents, 68 SWAT teams, 12 DEA tactical units, 8 FBI hostage rescue team operators, ICE enforcement and removal operations strike teams, Border Patrol tactical units, Black Hawk helicopters from the California National Guard, armored personnel carriers from DHS, and offshore, the USS Michael Mansour, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, positioned 12 miles off the San Diego coast to monitor communications and provide reconnaissance support. At exactly 4:47 a.m., the order came through every radio channel simultaneously. Execute. Engines roared across 3 states. In San Diego, a 20-vehicle convoy screamed toward Caldwell's home in La Jolla. Armored SUVs, SWAT vans, tactical units in black fatigues and ballistic helmets. They hit the house at 4:51 a.m. Flashbangs shattered windows. Battering rams tore through reinforced doors. Agents flooded inside. Federal agents, down, down, get down! Caldwell was in his bedroom. He reached for a handgun on the nightstand. 2 agents tackled him before his fingers touched the grip. He hit the floor face first. Cuffs locked around his wrists. His wife screamed. His teenage daughter ran into the hallway. Agents secured them both without force. In the garage, investigators found a floor safe containing $340,000 in cash, 3 encrypted phones, and a laptop with files labeled port access codes. Caldwell said nothing, just stared at the ceiling while agents photographed everything. Simultaneously, raids erupted across Southern California. In Chula Vista, agents breached a warehouse and found 410 pounds of methamphetamine stacked in duffel bags. In El Centro, a stash house contained 16.7 pounds of fentanyl pills packaged for street distribution. In Riverside, tactical units arrested 4 cartel distributors and seized $780,000 in cash and 11 firearms. In Phoenix, a coordination hub was dismantled. Agents seized communication equipment, surveillance gear, and ledgers showing $14 million in transactions. In Las Vegas, a money laundering operation run through a casino was shut down. Federal agents arrested 2 managers and froze accounts containing $3.2 million. In Tucson, a cartel safe house was raided. 9 suspects arrested, 31 pounds of cocaine seized. Across 3 states, federal agents executed 47 search warrants in under 6 hours. By 10:00 a.m., 73 suspects were in federal custody. The seizures were staggering: 240 pounds of methamphetamine, 41.3 pounds of fentanyl, 52 pounds of cocaine, 19 pounds of heroin, 47 firearms, including 3 AR-15 rifles and 2 AK-47 variants, $4.7 million in cash, 12 vehicles, including armored SUVs and cargo vans modified with hidden compartments. The underworld took more damage in one morning than it had in 5 years. But the most valuable evidence wasn't the drugs or the money. It was what investigators found on Caldwell's laptop. Share this so people understand how deep betrayal can go. Forensic analysts spent 6 days breaking the encryption on Caldwell's files. What they uncovered was a blueprint for institutional collapse. The laptop contained port access schedules dating back 38 months, container tracking numbers, inspection bypass protocols, federal surveillance grids showing which routes were monitored and which were blind, and names: 12 CBP officers, 4 DEA agents, 2 ICE supervisors, a federal prosecutor in Phoenix, a California state legislator, all compromised, all on cartel payroll. One file labeled Insurance detailed payments totaling $8.9 million distributed across 17 officials over 3 years. Another document titled Operational Security outlined how Caldwell accessed classified federal databases to provide cartel leadership with advance warning of raids, investigations, and surveillance operations. He had turned federal law enforcement into a cartel intelligence network. The betrayal cut deeper than anyone anticipated. One of the DEA agents on the list had worked narcotics for 14 years. He coached Little League, he donated to veteran charities, and he accepted $340,000 to leak raid schedules. An ICE supervisor compromised by Caldwell had been celebrated as Officer of the Year in 2023. She received $290,000 to delay inspections on specific containers. The prosecutor in Phoenix received $10,000 to bury evidence and delay indictments against cartel members. The state legislator accepted $620,000 to block funding for border security upgrades and surveillance technology. These weren't criminals. They were professionals, people with families, people who swore oaths, and they sold those oaths for money. One honest CBP officer who had worked alongside Caldwell for 9 years said, "I trusted him with my life. We ran operations together, we celebrated promotions together, and the whole time he was feeding us to the wolves." Federal prosecutors moved fast. On April 23rd, indictments were unsealed against 19 officials. Charges included conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, bribery, money laundering, obstruction of justice, and operating a continuing criminal enterprise. Arrests happened simultaneously, handcuffs in offices, agents escorting federal employees out of buildings in front of their colleagues. Cameras captured every moment. The message was deliberate. Corruption has consequences. But investigators weren't finished. Caldwell's files revealed something larger. The network didn't stop at California. It stretched across the Southwest. Distribution routes connected San Diego to Phoenix, Las Vegas, Albuquerque, El Paso, and Dallas. Trucking contractors moved product using commercial freight disguised as agricultural shipments. Warehouses operated under legitimate business licenses. Payment systems used cryptocurrency wallets that dissolved after single transactions. The operation moved an estimated $80 million worth of narcotics into the United States over 3 years, and it was designed to expand. One file labeled Phase 3 outlined plans to open distribution hubs in Denver, Salt Lake City, and Oklahoma City. Another document detailed recruitment strategies targeting Border Patrol agents in Texas and New Mexico. Caldwell wasn't just running a smuggling operation. He was building a permanent cartel infrastructure inside federal law enforcement. One senior FBI investigator reviewing the evidence said, "This wasn't corruption. This was a hostile takeover. Type rebuild if you believe the system can be fixed." On May 2nd, Deputy Chief Martin Caldwell stood in federal court in San Diego, shackled, orange jumpsuit, no expression. Federal prosecutors charged him with 37 counts. Each count carried a potential life sentence. The evidence was overwhelming: digital records, financial transactions, testimony from arrested co-conspirators. Caldwell's attorney tried to negotiate a plea. Prosecutors refused. The trial was set for September, but Caldwell knew the evidence would destroy him. On June 14th, he accepted a plea agreement, guilty on all counts. In exchange, he provided testimony against 14 co-defendants and disclosed offshore accounts totaling $2.9 million. The government seized everything: his home, his car, his investment, his wife's jewelry. On July 8th, Caldwell faced sentencing. Judge Patricia Ramirez read the sentence without emotion: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Caldwell showed no reaction. He was transferred to ADX Florence, the federal supermax prison in Colorado, where he will spend the rest of his life in a 7 by 12-foot cell. The other indicted officials faced justice in the months that followed. The DEA agent received 40 years. The ICE supervisor received 32 years. The federal prosecutor received 50 years. The state legislator received 28 years. Every corrupt official who sold their badge paid the price, but the damage they caused will echo for years. The final count from Operation Desert Reckoning and Harbor Blast investigations: 1,240 pounds of methamphetamine seized, 41.3 pounds of fentanyl, 52 pounds of cocaine, 19 pounds of heroin, 47 firearms, $4.7 million in cash, and $80 million in cartel drug operations dismantled. The DEA estimated the operation prevented 11,000 overdose deaths. Every pound of fentanyl represents thousands of lethal doses. Every shipment stopped is a neighborhood that doesn't get poisoned. One DEA supervisor who spent 19 months on the case said, "We didn't just arrest criminals, we purged a cancer from inside the system, and that's the hardest kind of victory to win." Hit subscribe so you see what happens next in the war against cartels. The fall of Martin Caldwell exposed a truth federal law enforcement doesn't want to admit. Cartels aren't just trafficking drugs. They're infiltrating institutions. They're recruiting officials. They're buying access to the systems designed to stop them. Caldwell had a badge, a pension, and the authority to protect American citizens. He chose money instead, and for 3 years, he turned the border into a cartel freeway. That's the real threat, not the drugs, the betrayal, because every corrupt official is a door that swings open for poison. Every leaked schedule is a convoy that crosses safely. Every compromised agent is a family that loses a son or daughter to an overdose. The cost isn't measured in seizures, it's measured in lives. Federal agents know this. That's why they don't celebrate when operations like Harbor Blast succeed. They reset, they train, they prepare for the next threat. Because somewhere right now, another official is being recruited, another payment is being made, another network is being built, and the next betrayal could be happening tomorrow. One Homeland Security investigator said at the end of Operation Desert Reckoning, "We broke this network, but the cartels are already building the next one. Our job is to make sure we're always faster, smarter, and more ruthless than they are." The Port of San Diego is still operating. Containers still arrive every day. Customs inspectors still scan manifests. But now, every federal employee with port access is monitored. Every login is tracked. Every inspection schedule is classified. Caldwell's network is gone, but the systems he exploited still exist. And somewhere in another port, another official is watching, thinking, calculating whether the money is worth the risk. That's why this story matters. Share this video so people know what's happening at our borders. If you believe federal agents who stay honest deserve recognition, comment honor below. Hit like if you think corruption should be exposed no matter who it destroys. Subscribe so you see the next story. Because the cartels are still moving, the networks are still growing, the poison is still crossing, and the next harbor blast could be tomorrow.